Well, the U.S. produces more oil and gas than any other country, and in the coming years, domestic production is expected to increase in some areas, but drastically decrease in others. In tonight's special report, Spotlight Energy Matters, my colleague Brett Baer takes a look at how it all balances out.
Thanks, Jillian. Here in Washington, we're just about 150 miles from the largest gas-producing region in the United States. The Appalachian Basin has been increasing its energy output in recent years. It comes as many states fail to bounce back to pre-pandemic oil production levels, and other parts of the process to produce oil and gas fall behind. Tonight, we take a look at our energy landscape and why domestic sources remain in high demand.
And we're going to combat climate change in a way that we haven't done so far.
From his first week in office, President Biden vowed to shift from oil and gas production to clean energy sources. He announced a pause for leasing on federal lands and in offshore waters, pending an environmental review.
We're going to start to properly manage lands and waterways.
In April of last year, the Interior Department finished the review and announced reformed leasing procedures. Royalty rates, or the portion from oil and gas sales that companies pay to the government, rose from 12.5% to 18.75%, a 50% increase. The land nominated for drilling by the oil and gas industry was reduced by 80%.
We all pay 50% more for 80% less. I think this is them trying to thread the needle, sort of split the hair, saying, okay, we're going to go ahead with a leasing program. We're not going to put much out there.
Overall, oil and gas production has risen in the past decade, including on federal lands, which make up about 25% of total output. But the first step in the oil-producing process has fallen significantly behind. In 2021, just 407 new leases were issued by the Bureau of Land Management, the lowest number in the last 2 decades. Acreage available for drilling also declined to a 20-year low.
Well, I'm from Wyoming, one of the energy breadbasket parts of this country. We can produce it. We have it. He's making us keep it in the ground.
Wyoming is one state that recorded declines in production across the board. Barrels per day fell from pre-pandemic numbers. The number of wells producing oil declined, and new well construction hit a 20-year low. Once a company has a lease, it still has to request a permit to drill. Approvals from the Interior Department did increase in 2021.
There are 9,000 unused approved drilling permits. So I would suggest you ask the oil companies why they're not using those if there's a desire to drill more.
Oil and gas groups say those permits apply only to land already leased for production, and that more acreage is needed to actually increase drilling.
What they're really saying is we don't want to produce more in the United States. We don't want to make more areas available for production.
Some Democrats say increasing the land available for energy production should include clean energy. You've said that there could be additional leasing. Are there parameters for that? Where, when, how?
Well, what we know is that America is the leader in the world in energy. We are blessed with abundant energy resources. That has to include the abundant resources of the sun, of the wind. That is cheaper energy now. It's less polluting.
Other states have increased oil and gas production, including Texas and New Mexico, which is where the Permian Basin is found.
The Permian Basin is a great story about the innovation of our industry. Through ingenuity, technological advances in the industry, we've more than doubled the production of oil in the United States.
The Appalachian region holds the Marcellus Shale. It's the second largest natural gas find in the world. Output there has increased in the last decade, but regulations and policies in other regions, such as New England, are blocking permitting for pipeline projects that would transport the natural gas. If you talk to those companies, they say, okay, give us the permitting and the regulations that we can do that.
Right. These are private businesses. They're actually producing returns for shareholders. Their inability to access projects that will deliver returns acceptable to them because of things like permitting that they can't get, or the midstream infrastructure, the pipes that they need, the ports they need to build it out and send the oil into the world, these are real problems for investment.
Some Democrats, along with Republicans, have tried to negotiate efforts to increase permitting. So is your permitting bill going to come up at all?
I think the permitting bill, and I've talked to Kevin McCarthy about that, and I think it'll come up starting in the House side and coming over to us from that standpoint and see if we can massage it to get 11. We all realize it's got to be done. If not, we cannot build what needs to be built and not deliver the energy the country needs.
The Energy Department says the U.S. has enough oil and gas to meet global demand until 2050, giving the U.S. a deadline to find a solution to meet universal energy needs. If we do increase drilling and we do improve clean energy sources, does that last us longer?
Well, the United States is an enormous producer of oil and gas. We're the biggest oil and gas producer in the world. And even if the United States transitions into cleaner fuels, and as a wealthy country, we almost certainly will, there will be a world ready to consume what we produce. So it's not necessarily an either or, it can be a both.
Renewable energy output is also on the rise, now makes up more than 12% of U.S. energy consumption. But petroleum and natural gas are still the leading sources. We'll continue to follow developments from all sides of energy production as we bring in these specials along the way. Jillian, we'll send it back to you.
Great reporting as